Hello, everyone, and welcome to AAUW's latest skill building webinar, Small but Mighty. There's a renewed interest in joining organizations, but most particularly in joining those who take action. It is no longer enough to educate people on the topic. They want to know what they can do about it. AAUW too has seen that growth. In the weeks directly following the Women's March in February, we saw 600 new members join AAUW. Do you know the last time 600 members joined AAUW in a few weeks? They joined because they marched and did not want it to end there. What else could they do? You can ride that wave also. More and more rollbacks are being announced or considered on laws and best practices that are good for women. People, not just women, but like-minded men, want to bring about real change. But are you too small to make a difference? Don't get so mired in what is not good about being small that you forget the very real advantages. First, can you say nimble? How easy is it to turn the Titanic? Not so easy, or they would have totally missed that iceberg and a really fabulous movie. How about a jet ski? You got the idea. Being small means you can turn on a dime if a better idea comes along. Second, the approval chain is so much shorter. How many times have you ever had a really good idea bogged down in committee? Or you have to wait until everyone weighs in. Then you include their input and everyone has to weigh in again in case they have changes to the changes. Third, people tend to ask their friends to help. A nice way to grow. I had a friend that worked for a caterer. Guess who I had help plan my food? Whenever my daughter's preschool needed help fundraising, guess who they called? That's right, me. One year I was room mom coordinator for the PTA. Every class had 2 fabulous room moms because I put the pressure on my friends where I saw holes. And you know what? They did it again, year after year, once they saw how much they enjoyed it. So, who are you? Who's your branch? And what would happen if you disappeared? If the answer is nothing, then you have a problem. You simply cannot be important unless you serve a purpose. When I moved to a house with a fish pond, my fish pond guy quickly became one of the most important people in my life. My accountant is another one. I need them. Who needs you? If you don't have that answer, then look at the community you serve and see who you can become important to. That does not mean abandoning AAUW's mission. It means looking at what we do, which is level the playing field for women and girls, change the climate for women and girls, whatever your elevator pitch is, and seeing how you can assist the women in your community. What are AAUW's key focus areas? The pay gap, the leadership gap, the STEM gap, and Title IX, which is under greater fire than ever before. Now let's drill that down. Are you in a university town? That means students, faculty, and staff are in your community. What AAUW issues are appropriate? Safe campuses, women in leadership for students and faculty, the wage gap. See what I mean? Are you in a manufacturing town? Again, pay gap, leadership gap, and probably the STEM gap as well. So once you determined what you do, how will people know that you do it? Raise your hand. I know you're at home. Raise your hand if you have a website. How important is that website? It is the yellow pages of yore. If you don't have one, then people cannot find you and they can't learn about you. As important as having one is making sure the info tells your branch story. Within the first 5 seconds of my going to a website, I will already be making judgments about them from the first content I read to the first photo I see. I saw an AAUW website one time when I was looking through for best practices and who was doing what, that announced their upcoming meeting that had taken place 2 years prior. to the date I was on the website. What does that say about that branch? Are they active? Probably not. Are they even still in existence? What does your website say about you? Established in 1881, the American Association of University Women is a membership organization, and on and on. Seriously? You have to think of your web content, and indeed any content, as something consumable. And even better, I want you to think of it as a bite, a snack, and a meal. Anyone has time for a bite. You're walking past the kitchen at work, someone has out brownie bites. You grab one, pop it in your mouth, and don't even slow down as you're walking past. A snack, you have to have a little more time to consume. You stop a second and finish that bag in front of you because that first bite was so yummy. A meal is something you schedule time for, something you sit down and enjoy. Again, you had a bite, thought it was tasty, and decided to come back to consume more at your leisure. So now with this mode of thinking, let's re-examine the first words we have on our websites. Go ahead and pull out your devices and take a look at your own as we talk about this. Is your first bite of info yummy? If you start with, established in 1881, the American Association of University Women is a membership organization, blah, blah, blah. Did you give them a brownie bite? No, you just gave them a Fig Newton. This is the part where everyone always asks, do you have an example of a good website? So yes, I'm going to brag on Carlisle, Pennsylvania, whose website is a veritable plethora of best practices. Here's the Carlisle, Pennsylvania branch's website. My pride and joy. Let's take a look at the bite on this page. Changing the climate for women and girls in Carlisle. Okay, that's a pretty good brownie bite. And then they have the ifs and onlys video right below it to help tell the story even further. But wait, there's even more about what's good on this website. Let's look at what else is wonderful about this page. So not only are they telling me that they're changing the climate for women and girls in Carlisle, but they're telling me how they're doing it. Look at some of this language. Create societal change through nonpartisan advocacy. That's pretty powerful. They don't just say they're advocates. They say that they create societal change. They collaborate with like-minded organizations. You can learn and grow through content-rich meetings. That's great. They don't just say, hey, come to our next meeting. They tell you you'll learn and grow at content-rich meetings. They also have the opportunity for you to socialize while attending interest groups. This is all very engaging language. See anything else great here? Look at the link to their Facebook page at the bottom. A website simply can't engage like social media can. It can't have you join in the conversation when you're on the website. It can only entice you. Who here is using site resources? If you're not, I highly recommend it. This Carlisle branch's website is a site resources site. Site resources will set up your webpage for free. It's an AAUW service. And for $10 a month, they'll even maintain the site for you if you send them content. Okay, we talked about words, but what else is important on your website? Your pictures. This one is iconic, and some pictures are iconic for a reason. You can sum up what they mean in one word, or you can tell entire stories with them behind you. What does this photo indicate? It's the sheer, unbridled joy of peace again. What photos are on your website? If you hold a book sale to raise money for local scholarships, which photo would you choose? Okay, here we have a photo of a book sale. There are a lot of men at the book sale, and there are a lot of books at the book sale. It's in a very dark kind of basement place. Don't know if I'd want to go there on a, beautiful sunny day. But yes, we get the picture. It is indeed a book sale. Now, Imagine if you had this picture on your poster about your book sale. It's bright, it's colorful, and it shows who you are going to impact. You know what a book sale looks like. It's tables full of books. Instead, show us the joy that the proceeds of that sale are going to make possible. Okay, let's look at these two photos. Which one is better? But before you make a decision, let me set the stage for you. This photo goes to potential exhibitors at AAUW's Graduate School Fair at the National Conference for College Women Student Leaders. These people are trying to determine whether they're going to spend $750 to recruit young women to their program. So again, which photo is better? I'm sure many of you are saying the photo that's top left. And yes, it has good branding, nice lighting, and 5 women that look like they'd be perfect candidates for my program. They're even doing the sorority sister pose. But what the second photo shows is that there are hundreds of students here that might come to my program. Not just 5, which at $750 is expensive, but hundreds, which at $750 is a little cheaper per person. So which photo is better? The bottom right. Now let's talk branding. What? More photos? Yeah, they're that important. What is front and center on these photos? That's right, the AAUW logo. Do you know I've seen photos on our websites with another organization's name all over them? The League, Planned Parenthood, you name it. Bottom line, if you're going to use a photo on your website, please make sure you have some way of branding it so you don't advertise for another group on your own website. And you can use any photos and shareables you find on AAUW National's social media and website for your own purposes. For example, if you have a Twitter account, you can go to AAUW Twitter, then simply click on Media, and you'll have all our photos and shareables that we use available for you to download. They're there for your use, so I encourage you use them. Okay, we're done with photos. What else is important? Video. Imagine how quickly this will engage people who visit your website. It's a snack, but a very engaging snack. Go to the AAUW website and search for how to embed video for the 5 easy steps to putting video on your website today. Now, there are 2 places where you can find AAUW video. The first one is on the Video tab under Resources on the AAUW website. You'll see these are organized by how you can use them. Simply click on the plus sign to show a list of how you can use the videos, and even better, how to download them and get them to where you need them. The second place you can access even more AAUW videos is on our YouTube channel. Simply Google AAUW YouTube and you'll find videos listed by our issues, programs, speakers, history, and even videos just for members on things like give a grad a gift, how to craft a great elevator pitch, and more. And they're all there for you to use. Now, how else can we spread the word about our wonderful work, our small but mighty branches? Posters. But make sure they're in all the right places. Are you having a garden party? Where would you put the posters? I once spoke with a branch that postered the entire neighborhood, but never thought about putting posters up in their garden center or nurseries. Where do people that like to garden go? You have to think about that when you're putting up your posters. Partnerships and collaborating with other groups also help in so many ways. You can get additional attendees, volunteers, share the marketing. And then lastly, the way to grow is through social media. We'll address partnerships in social media in a bit, but let's focus more on posters now. Posters tell so much about you as well. Plus, they have the benefit of being right in front of potential members' faces. You don't have to count on someone looking up your website or stumbling across your event. posters send them straight to your website. So before we even get to our list of should-dos, the first commandment is to make sure that your poster looks like your website. Use the AAUW Style Guide for our palette of colors so people know they came to the right place when they check you out. I highly recommend going to www.canva.com. I made a poster yesterday morning in 5 minutes. But now let's take a look at that poster. Powerful posters should be colorful. You should have great photos or images. The typography should be right. Even if you have 389 fonts on your computer, please do not be tempted to use all of them when creating your poster. You need to have white space to give your eyes a chance to rest and actually take in the information you're giving them. There's a hierarchy of information. The most important information should come first. And then lastly, be stingy. You don't have to fit all the information on your poster. Really what they need to know is what it is, who's doing it, and where and when. But you can always and should always put your website, your URL, on that poster. So in case they want to know information, they know where to go. Again, if we take a look at this poster, you'll see that's what's missing, that all-important URL. Partnerships and collaborations with other groups can be outstanding. They can help you double the return while cutting the work in half. But first, know exactly what you want from the partnership. And secondly, share those expectations with them. If you want them to sell 100 tickets to your book signing, then tell them that. If you want them to provide the food and you provide the space, then please be clear about the food. Food can be cheese and crackers, or tea trays full of sandwiches, or potluck. Don't be upset because you found an elegant space and they're carrying in PBJ sandwiches on plastic trays. Third, if something feels wrong along the way, speak up. If they're supposed to be in charge of publicity and you see nothing in town about the event, speak up right away. Lastly, always sit down together and do a recap of the event. Remember, this is a first date, not a marriage. You're trying to decide if you want to go on a second date. So don't let your partnership end up like this one did, off a cliff. Make sure that your partnership has a happy ending. All right, we know the sayings. You're known by the company you keep. Lay down with dogs and you get fleas. Be careful in your partnerships. The last thing you want to do is work hard to maintain a sterling reputation only to have it tarnished when your partner is accused of mismanaging funds. Do some research beforehand because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Here we have one of the usual, but more of the not so usual suspects. What other collaborations have worked for you? Let's take a look at some of these. The PTA is an outstanding potential partner for AAUW branches. Why? PTA members are passionate about their child's education. They're used to paying dues as part of membership. And lastly, they are the ultimate doers. Let's look at some of the other potential partners here. The League is one of the usual suspects, but Seroptimus clubs, the National Association of Women Judges, your National Honor Society. If anyone has a high school near them, please reach out to the Honor Society. They're required to log in service hours as part of their being on the Honor Society, and they make fabulously reliable, strong, eager partners for you. All right, we've talked about with whom to collaborate, but what pluses will you get out of those collaborations? 1, extra publicity. Remember, they'll be advertising it too. 2, you get to split the costs. 3, possible assistance with site selection or even free spaces from your partner. 4, either financial donations or assistance in selling tickets or raising funds. 5, potentially more media attention. And 6, connections that you don't have. And now we're going to turn to the social media component. What is social media really? It's a platform primarily embraced by women because our form of communication has always been socially based. My father used to tell a tired joke in the 70s at cocktail parties. What are the 3 fastest ways to spread news? Telegraph, telephone, tell a woman. Well, it's really just people using a channel to communicate with each other. So what's the easiest way to engage new members? Facebook. It's the non-static version of your website. Your posts should be small and your photos mighty. And remember that just like with the posters, you're trying to tell a little more. Don't just say, Sue, I liked your dress last night. Say, hey, Sue, glad you and Bob came to the book sale for local scholarships. Last year's recipient told a great story, didn't she? One other really great way to be small and powerful is to be the gender lens for your community. What issues are they talking about? Do those issues impact women more than men? Frankly, it's likely that they do. With the majority of American households with children under 16 now claiming a woman as head of household, it's hard to imagine an issue that will not have a greater impact on women than men. Be that clarion call for your community. Be that group that will always discuss the gender effect of proposed legislation, zoning laws, school issues, campus safety, and so on. Here you will find the core of your mission-based programs because inevitably, everything I just mentioned comes back around to one of AAUW's 4 key issues: the pay gap, the leadership gap, the STEM gap, or Title IX. Since 1888, our research has formed the backbone of the organization. It informs our advocacy and is the foundation for our programs. AAUW Tech Trek and Tech Savvy camps were born from research. Why so few changed the national conversation about the lack of women in STEM and is still widely quoted today. So much so that the public demanded we do a deeper dive, which led to solving the equation, the variables for women's success in engineering and computing. The simple truth is quoted almost daily in publications across the U.S. and internationally. How many of you were aware that this was translated to Spanish to increase accessibility to the Latina population? Do any of you have a large Latina population in your area? This is a fabulous tool to reach out to them. 2 of AAUW's most recent reports offer fabulous programming of interest to virtually every segment of the population. Barriers and Bias, the status of women in leadership, and then Deeper in Debt. In Barriers and Bias, AAUW examines why, despite women's impressive gains in education in the workplace over the past 50 years, men still greatly outnumber women in leadership, especially in top positions. From corporate boardrooms to the halls of Congress, from universities to the courts, from places of worship to philanthropic organizations, men are simply much more likely than women to be leaders. Thousands of books and articles offer theories about the nature of the problem and advice to individual women on how to stand up, step in, lean out, and make their voices heard. But the leadership gender gap is significant, persistent, and systemic. Individual choices alone simply will not solve the problem. You could host many programs around the results of Barriers and Bias alone. Then we have our recently released Deeper in Debt. Who watched the live stream of this launch? It was a fabulous panel discussion, and the recording is still available if you have a free hour one day. Now, more importantly, who has plans for holding a meeting around this report this year? It's a great way to harness the energy of a very trendy topic in conversation, and one that is of interest to every parent of a daughter. What kind of audiences could we reach out to? College students, high school students, and their parents, middle school students, and their parents, grammar school, preschool students, and their parents, school counselors, professional women's groups. Okay, so now you had a fabulous program. Remember the action part we spoke of? What are you going to have them do when they leave? We just can't talk to audiences anymore, no matter how fascinating, for an hour, and then send them home. We didn't solve any problems. We just made them more depressed with more information. Every AAUW report has suggestions for legislative changes as well as necessary changes in academia. Is your legislature or university currently considering making changes that impact student debt? Then ask your members to engage. Maybe a future branch meeting could be a panel of experts who can demystify the FAFSA and explain the difference between need-based and merit-based scholarships, or the difference between loans and grants. Now, let's say we interested an entirely new, diverse demographic in our community about the student debt problem, and they've come to our event. What next? Studies show that people are still joining organizations, particularly professional associations and mission-based nonprofits. Okay? But you have to look at the 4 areas above and make the case in each statement. What community are you going to provide for these people that just came to your program? Can you help someone grow professionally? Will your programs hone their skills? Will members help mentor newer members and sponsor them up the chain in the business world? Which brings us to networking. Are your members connected in the community? Do they know people? Remember Madeleine Albright's famous quote, "There's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women." I have a number of younger women that I'm sponsoring. Note, I said sponsoring, not mentoring. Who knows the difference? Sponsoring is putting people's names forward when opportunities arise, inside and outside of your organization. And then lastly, as to why people are joining today, it's our forte. Prospective members want a chance to take action. Engage your program attendees to do just that. For those looking for more guidance about when and on what to take action, our Washington Update weekly newsletter and timely 2-minute activist email alerts are the absolute best way to stay on top of AAUW's federal policy priorities and lobbying efforts. We use these alerts to provide updates on our legislative priorities and to call on members to take action when we know constituent input is needed most. The timing and messaging of these updates is strategic. They include talking points we know to be effective and the issues we know require attention. So don't just sign up to receive them, and don't just encourage others to sign up to receive them. Actually open the emails, click the links, take action. AAUW in the State House provides updates on state policy from across the country, tips and resources for more effective advocacy, and insider information from the AAUW Public Policy and Government Relations Department about good and bad bills in the states. Keep these in mind when encouraging your new constituents about how to take action. Now let's take a look at when we can hold our programs for maximum impact. Use the calendar for women's issues that you can find on the AAUW website for events that you can provide programming around. The plus when you do this is that you'll be able to ride the wave of news or public interest, making it much more likely that any event you have will be picked up by the local media. How about Equal Pay Day events in April, Women's History events in March, Susan B. Anthony's birthday and National Women and Girls in Sports Day in February, Title IX's anniversary in June, Women's Equality Day in August, VAWA's anniversary in September? It just makes sense to ride the coattails of these days. Why? Because other organizations are already increasing awareness. You have the potential to collaborate with them, and you can tap into an audience of people that know that you're interested in that issue. And what shouldn't you do? The easiest way to lose new people you just brought through the door is to never again discuss the issue that brought them through that door. Say you just did a program around deeper in debt and how the pay gap plays a role. These people just indicated an interest in student debt and the pay gap. Unless you continue to engage them, they're going to wonder why they joined. If I'm interested in ending the pay gap and you have one meeting and then never address the pay gap again, I'll think twice about staying with you. But that doesn't mean that you should only talk about the pay gap and nothing else for a year, because then you'll lose them at the end of that year. It just means you need to keep interest alive with action items throughout, which is why, again, if your meetings focus around the pay gap, the leadership gap, the STEM gap, and Title IX, you're sure to have some sort of actionable items to provide your members with. And always remember to keep a month or two absolutely blank. It is very difficult to integrate the latest and greatest of AAUW programs when you have already scheduled your year out. If everyone is talking about sexual harassment in the workplace and you've scheduled a meeting on the death of the Dewey Decimal System, you will not be able to take advantage of that fervor and public interest. We all do it because it's great to check off that box once you're in the position and say, phew, all my programs are done. But try and only schedule a couple months at a time or around key dates. It's easy to pull a panel discussion together quickly around topical issues. Look up Programs in a Box on the AAUW website and then click on Reaction Events to learn how to take advantage of timely national conversation. And if push comes to shove and you have already scheduled a program when something else is trending in national conversation, there's no problem having 2 programs that month. So, how are you going to be that mouse that roared? Be a resource for your local media. Those mission-based programs are things of interest to them that they will want to cover. Get AAUW PSAs played on local stations. You'll find information about that on the AAUW website. Write letters to the editor. Again, it's a great way of making your position and your organization's name known in your community, because even a handful can make a powerful noise. I invite anyone that has questions or wants further information to contact us at program@aauw.org. And I also encourage you to engage with the remainder of the skill-based webinars, which will take place the second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Thank you for joining us.